Thanks, Ishbel. And to give context to this crisis and give a proper acknowledgement to country, let's welcome renowned warrior woman Lorna Munro. Lorna Munro, or Yilini, is a Wiradjuri and Gamilaroi woman, multidisciplinary artist and regular radio and podcast host at Radio Skid Row. A long-time active member of her Redfern Waterloo community, her work is informed by her passion and well-studied insights in areas such as history, politics and popular culture. Lorna is the sole designer and creator of Sydney's and possibly Australia's first initiative to teach Aboriginal language through poetry in partnership with Red Room Poetry. Welcome, Lorna!
Hello, how are we all? My name's Lorna Munro. As comrade Rachel so kindly introduced me to you all. I'm a Wiradjuri Gomeroi poet and podcaster. I'm also a lifelong member of the Redfern Waterloo community. I'm a presenter of a very interesting little project called Survival Guide, a podcast about gentrification in Redfern and Waterloo. And I think over the years that's become a bit of a resource for people to really understand what gentrification looks like, how to survive it, based on how our people have survived the earlier iterations of gentrification. We all know it as colonisation. There's a lot to learn from Aboriginal people in this country, and the longer that we refuse to acknowledge all of their momentums, all of their struggles, all of the things that we've been able to do for ourselves in this survival against the colony, I think people have a lot to learn from that, and they're only going to miss out by denying that in this country. Speaking of this country, we are standing on Gadigal land. I cannot welcome you to a country that is not my own, but I invite you to acknowledge this country with us and acknowledge this country every day when you walk it. And don't forget that you stand on stolen land and act accordingly. Now, just to give a little bit of context to where we stand, this place, Town Hall, was actually one of the first cemeteries for the convicts who were worked to death just further on down the road at the Rocks. Worked to death quarrying sandstone to build these big, great buildings that adorn the city today. Sandstone for our people, especially Gadigal people, saltwater people, sandstone is extremely important. And apparently there were 100 carvings destroyed from here to Botany Road in order to build George Street. I start off with that just to kind of give you this pattern that has existed in this country, and again the reason why everyone needs to learn from our survival is that if you know anything about Sydney and the country at large, you know that there's a whole cycle of moving people on, which is happening today. Basically, colonisation feeds off moving people on. It originally was powered by Aboriginal blood, guts and bones. Now gentrification is a threat to all of us. Gentrification is colonisation. The tools have not changed, they just have different policy names. Redfern is a very, very specific, interesting place to look at with how colonisation has existed in that place and how the Redfern community, the black iconic community that everybody knows Redfern for, has survived in that place and will continue to survive in that place, because as long as there's Aboriginal faces in Redfern, colonisation has not been successful. The thing that you need to understand about Redfern is that there's been specific strategies concocted in that place that has become successful strategy to roll out into every urban community after it. It is the testing ground. It always has been the testing ground. Sydney is the testing ground for everything in this country. So if you can understand the patterns of the colonial monsters' behaviours here in this country, you might be able to arm yourself. Back in the 60s, Redfern's significant because it had a population up to 60,000 people. Today we have 300 Aboriginal people left. And that is because of moving and selling of public housing. Aboriginal people make up majority of the population in the area. It is the reason why all of these things were set up in this community. Now, the thing that I need people to really understand is one of the things that has opened up Redfern to these corporates and privatisation has been the criminalisation of Aboriginal children and people, culminating in the death of TJ Hickey, who was chased by police to his death in Redfern. Now, after that happened, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but there was a federal body established in Redfern, Waterloo, that superseded all local government. It was called the Redfern Waterloo Authority. And it dealt in the purchasing and selling of stolen goods, stolen land. So that body was set up to address antisocial behaviour. In the time that that federal organisation has controlled the area, there has been not 1 cent spent on anything to do with any social cohesion in the community. It has all been spent on buying and selling land. So when we talk about the levels of privatisation where we're at the moment, Redfern is a really good place to track it back to. And the ways that that community has been levelled has been destroying Aboriginal children, destroying Aboriginal families first and foremost, destroying everything that a community needs and families need to function and thrive. So if we get rid of all of the public schools in the area, what do you think happens next? The families follow. So if you want to destroy a community, you get rid of all the public housing, you get rid of all of the things that a community needs. Schools, medical centres, all of these things. The most nefarious thing about it all is the stigmatisation of Aboriginal children. The way a colony works is literally feeding off child labour. All colonies everywhere, children are the first to be worked to death, stigmatised, violence, all of these things. Children are always the first, the most vulnerable in that situation. And in Redfern and Waterloo community, I really need people to understand in the way that they have come through and levelled that community is by criminalisation of Aboriginal children and stigmatising the whole community. So I don't have much more to say. Go and listen to Survival Guide if you really want to listen to a comprehensive timeline and keep up to date with the things that Rachel and all these mob are doing, because not many people are talking about it, and not many people are talking about the fact that this has all happened under the Prime Minister that's literally sold to the rest of us that he's one of us, that he grew up in public housing. And I think you can't forget that. Thank you.